Hello everyone, today in this video I am going to deal with a poem of class 6th. The title of the poem is Vocation, written by Rabindranath Tagore. Now before we move to the text of the poem, let me deal with the meaning of the word vocation. What is vocation? Vocation refers to a trade, a profession or any occupation which a person carry on in his or her life to earn the daily breads or to earn their livelihood. So in this poem, a boy, he observes different person in his society in the street while going to the school, while returning back from the school to his home, and he is fascinated, he is attracted toward different profession, and even he wanted to be the one when he grew up. He is ignorant of the challenges and the difficulties and the hardship which one have to face in that profession, and at the same time he has given the list of things what attracts him and why he want to profess that profession or why he wanted to be the one like that person whom he sees in the street while going to the school or returning back from the school. So now, before I move to the text, let me introduce you to the poet of this poem, Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore, born Rabindranath Tagore, 7th May 1861 till 7 August 1941, was a Bengali polymath, poet, writer, composer, philosopher and painter. He researched Bengali literature and music as well as Indian art. In 1913, he became the first non-European as well as first lyricist to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. So this is a brief introduction about Rabindranath Tagore. Now let's move to the text. When the gong sounds 10 in the morning and I walk to school by our lane, every day I meet the hawker crying, bangles, crystal bangles. There is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take, no place he must go to, no time when he must come home. In the first line we have a word that is gong. This is gong. So in the first two lines he says that every day he used to set out for his school when it's 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock is the time for him to go to school, and the sound produced by gong is a sign for him that it's 10 o'clock. So whenever it's 10 o'clock and whenever he hears the sound of gong, he used to set out for his school. And then the narrator says, while going to his school, he used to see a bangle seller. He used to see a hawker who is selling bangles. And he used to cry, bangles, crystal bangles. And then he says, there is nothing to hurry him on. There is no road he must take. Then he says that the narrator, the boy, he have various restrictions. He have to reach school on time, he have to return back to his home on time. He is not free to take any street which he wishes, but he says that this hawker, this bangle seller, he have no restriction. So the narrator, the child, he likes his freedom. He says that he has nothing to hurry about, while the narrator have to hurry to reach school on time. He have to hurry as he need to return back to his home on time, and he have to follow the same path. He can't roam here and there, while at the same time this hawker, he is free to go anywhere. He can take any road, he can go any place, and he is not time bounded. He is free to follow his spirit, his heart. But it's nothing like that with the narrator. I wish I were a hawker spending my days in the road crying, bangles, crystal bangles. So in the previous part we have seen that what are the things which attracts him. He is attracted toward the freedom of that hawker. He is not time bound, he is not place bound, he is not road bound. He is free to follow any path, he is free to go anywhere. And this is what attracts this little boy. And therefore he says that he wants to be a hawker. He wishes I were a hawker. He wants to become a hawker. And why he wants to become? So that he would be free to roam anywhere. And he will love to spend his all days in the street, in the road, and he will shout bangles, crystal bangles. When at 4 in the afternoon I come back from the school, I can see through the gate of that house the gardener digging the ground. He does what he likes with his spade. He soils his clothes with dust. Nobody takes him to task if he gets baked in the sun or gets wet. So now the second part of the poem is, he says that when he returned from the school in the afternoon, so while his way back to the school, he says that in afternoon, he see through the gate of the house that a gardener digging the ground. So now he is fascinated toward a gardener who is digging the ground with his spade. What is a spade? It's a tool. Here you can see in this picture, this is spade. So he saw that a gardener was there in the garden digging the ground with a spade, and he has soils his clothes with dust, and nobody takes him to task. Take to task, it means to scold. So again he loved the freedom which the gardener is enjoying. And what freedom he is enjoying? He is free to soil himself. He is free to be in the sun, while at the same time this child, his parents did not allow him to dirty his clothes. He is not allowed, he is not permitted to play in the soil, to dust himself or his clothes with soil. And even he is not allowed to go out in the sun or gets wet. He is not even allowed to go out in the rain, or here it can be said that in sun people used to sweat, and due to sweat we get wet. So it's not permitted to be out in the afternoon in the sun, and is not even allowed to play in the soil, and as a result he can't dirty his clothes. While this gardener is free to be in the soil, and even if he soils his clothes, even if his clothes get dirty, there is no one to scold him, and this is what he loved about the gardener. I wish I were a gardener digging away at the garden with nobody to stop me from digging. So these are the things, that is the freedom to be in the sun in afternoon, and the freedom to soil his clothes is what attracts him about the gardener. And therefore again he says, again he is attracted toward the profession, the occupation of a gardener, and he says that he wants to be a gardener. And when he will be a gardener, he will be out digging away. He will be digging the grounds, and he will love to dig the ground. He will love to be out in the afternoon, in the noon time in the garden. Just as it gets dark in the evening and my mother sends me to bed, I can see through my open window the watchmen walking up and down. So now he says that when it gets dark in the evening, it means now he is talking about night time. So he says that when he is asked, when he is sent to his bed, when it's time for him to slip through the window, he can see to whom he sees. He sees the watchman who is walking up and down. Up and down, it means to and fro. So he sees a watchman walking up and down in the street. So now let's see what he says about a watchman. The lane is dark and lonely, and the street lamps stands like a giant with one red eye in its head. The watchman swings his lantern and walks with his shadow at his side, and never once goes to bed in his life. I wish I were a watchman walking the street all the night, chasing the shadow with my lantern. So now, during night, when he had gone to his bed to sleep, at that time through his window he saw a watchman with a lantern in his hand. Here you can see the watchman have a lantern in the hand. Why he used to have lantern? Because he is out during night in the dark, and therefore he used to carry a lantern, a light with himself. And the watchman, he is walking up and down in the street. And then what he says, that the watchman is out there in the lane which is completely dark, and he is all alone there. And there in the street there is only one thing, and what is that? There is a street lamp. Here you can see in the picture, the street is quite lonely, there is no one, just a street lamp is there. And he says that the street lamp is standing there like a giant. Giant, it means very big in size, with one red eyes on its head. It refers to the light which is there on the street lamp. The watchman swings his lantern and walks with his shadow at his side, and never once goes to bed in his life. And then he says that while walking up and down the street, that watchman is moving the lantern which is there in his hand, is moving it and is walking up and down in the street, and his shadow is there by his side, and he never goes to sleep. He is not forced to go to sleep. As a child, or for a school going children, as they have to wake up early in the morning in order to go to school, therefore what the parents used to do, they used to force the child to go into the bed as early as possible, and this is what the child doesn't like. Therefore here the narrator in this story, even he feels the same, and even he don't like to go into the bed, and therefore the freedom of the watchman of not going to the bed in night is what attracts him, and therefore he wants to be a watchman. And therefore he says, I wish I were a watchman walking the street all night, chasing the shadow with my lantern. So he says that as this watchman is free, no one forces him to go into the bed, and this is what attracts him. And therefore he says that I wish I were a bad watchman. He wants to be a watchman. And then he says that if it happens that he become a watchman, then he will never go into the bed. He will keep walking up and down in the street, chasing his shadow with his lantern. So this is what is all in this poem. So basically what we found, that a child is there, he observes the person around him, and at first he saw a hawker, then a gardener, and then a watchman. But what was common in all these three people? The things which was common in all that three person was freedom. So we can say that the children is attracted toward the freedom which they enjoy. This is all about this poem. Thank you.